I'm Sam Taggart with Can't Knock This, host of the first ever Door-to-Door Con, bringing professional collaboration to the direct selling and door-to-door industry. Go register your seat for our event, January 2018 at doortodoorcon.com. I am here with Shoney Ivens. He's one of the greats. He's been in it for now 4 years and really excited to kind of go through quite a bit. Sorry for my voice. I literally lost it going crazy at this leadership thing, just barely. And so I sound like a freaking frog. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go through a little bit of closing. We're going to go through a little bit of how to develop strong leaders. We're going to go through how to recruit massive teams. Shoney's over the last 2 years went from literally no reps to 4,000 reps in the satellite space. And, you know, he started in the alarm. He was
4,000 accounts, 4,000 reps.
4,000 accounts. He went to 4,000 reps.
I wish it was that way, but it's not.
So it's the secret MLM sauce, you know.
Yeah.
So done for some phenomenal work and super excited to have you on the show. And yeah, so tell us a little bit about you and kind of how you got your start.
Yeah, man. Well, first, thank you so much for inviting me to be on the show. I started back in 2013, actually doing phone sales. And if we want to go like far back, I actually started knocking doors back in 2002, selling newspaper prescriptions for the Daily Herald in Provo and Orem, Utah. So I was grinding from the beginning, man. I knew that was from that day. I knew that it was going to be my future knocking on doors, right? But no, so fast forward, 2013, I started working at a place called Progrexion, selling credit repair on the doors, on the phones. And I had a buddy who told me about Vivint, who obviously was pretty big at that time. And he's like, hey, come look into it. You can make a ton of money. And I was all about it. I was like, hey, if I can level up from where I'm currently at, I'm open to the opportunity. Let's check it out. So we actually sat down with Vivint, with Cheyenne Thatcher, Jason Brown, some big dogs, and they completely sold us on the opportunity. And up till something that was like November of 2013. And then up till summer, we actually started shopping around looking at other companies and other opportunities, and ended up choosing to go with Protection One. So we were with P1 for 2 years, and I had a great experience. My first summer was a little bit rocky, a little bit rough. We had our manager who quit on us 3 weeks into the summer, and that caused a lot of guys to fall off. We didn't have any management. We were living in LA, and which was obviously, if you know how that selling in LA is, you have a lot of enticements and distractions going down to the beach during working hours and stuff like that, especially when you have, it's your first summer, you don't have really too large of goals. And so that summer was great. I finished with just about 75 accounts and had a great summer. My second summer, I caught the vision of being able to massively grow my income and being able to recruit and help other guys grow their income as well. And so my second summer went out and did 500 accounts in my downline, sold 175 accounts personal, and really caught the vision there of growing a team and also just using this as an opportunity to kind of as a cash cow, right? Trying to get as much money as possible out of it. And then going into 3, yeah.
Not to cut you off too fast, but I want to slow down for a second, because anybody that knows, so many people from their first year, and a lot of people probably are coming off of their first year right now. So they're sitting there like they maybe did 75 or 50 accounts, and they're asking themselves, how do I go to 150, 200 accounts? And this is alarm talk, but we could apply it to any industry. But so what did you do that you saw that shifted to actually go do that? Because so many people talk about it. And I just met a guy out here in California. He's at the same leadership thing. He sold for Vivint last year, and he did 60 accounts his first year in like 2.5 months. And then a full summer, he did 60 accounts his second year. And talking to him, he was really frustrated. He was like, freak, man, I feel like I freaking degraded in more time. I did less amount of accounts. And I think what would you attribute your more than doubling and having a big downline to from year 1 to year 2? Yeah. And what would be some pitfalls you've been managing? Like,
honestly, I think the biggest thing that helped me have so much more success that second summer was the change in mindset that I had. I first had to make that conscious decision of what I was wanting, right? I had to actually set some higher goals, because that was my biggest problem my first summer is I didn't have necessarily a goal in mind rather than just making a lot of money. I didn't actually have like a dollar figure or a specific amount that I wanted to make. I just wanted a lot of money. And vague goals produce vague results, right? And so that was the downfall my first summer is I just didn't come out with, a vision of what I could accomplish or what I wanted to accomplish. But my second summer, I started focusing on what do I really want this year and how can that set up year 3, 4, 5, right? So I increased my vision, up my game in goal setting. And then I started using a principle I learned in high school, right? In high school, we call this cheating, but I just started to copy and paste, right? So what I would do is I'd find people who were very successful, whether it be in the sales industry or other areas of life that I wanted to grow in, and I would copy what they're doing and paste it into my own life. And guess what happens? You get the same results.
If you're watching this like this, if you cheated in high school, let's just say, do a little. Because this bump, okay, terrible. I'm going to admit it right now.
Man. Yeah.
But what's so funny is how you're applying this now to sales.
Yep. And I honestly think that's a major key to my success is just that simple principle of if you see somebody that's doing better than you, you need to find out what they're doing and copycat. That's all it is. And it's very simple. And I think we start to overcomplicate it. That's how our brains work, is we want to overcomplicate things. And so when we look at an individual, we say, man, he is doing so well, and I don't know why. I don't know why this rookie outsold me or why this manager is doing so much better than I am. But really, when it comes down to it, they're doing these very basic principles that you can implement in your life, and you're going to get the same results. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
So
I think that's huge. So many people think they have to be creative in our job. You know what I mean? Like, you see reps that are like, "Oh, I'm going to do it my way," and just come up with something different because I don't want to copy. Like, I'd feel almost bad if I copied. It's like, no. It's okay to copy the greats. Exactly. I give you permission to copy me. Where some people feel bad. They're like, because we've been taught our whole lives, copying's bad, so we have to do our own work. But it's like, no, plagiarize the crap out of my pitch, please, because it works.
Exactly.
So I think that's a huge principle. So let's kind of move on. So you switched into satellite, which most people switching into satellite are probably like, I'm going backwards. But you're like, wait a minute.
That's exactly how it was. That's exactly how it was. So Progrexion 1, most people obviously know they don't do their normal door-to-door program any longer. They shut that down. And so when that was taking place, I started looking at other opportunities, started looking at Alder, Vivint, North Star, a few different options. And then my friend approached me, Steve Bynes, who some may know, very good friend of mine, and he said, hey, you should come check out Satellite. He was at P1 as well. He'd been in the industry for about 7 years at that time and was very, very successful in alarms. And so he said, come check it out. And I actually told him, I was just going to sit with him so that I can tell him about the Alder opportunity, because Alder was kind of who I had chosen to go with, made up my mind about. And then I ended up sitting down with them, and I was like, man, to be honest, there's no money in satellite. And keep in mind, I'm only a second-year rep, so I really don't know that much about other industries and stuff at that point. I'm super new, but I thought I knew everything, right? So I was like, everybody's told me there's no money in satellite. But I ended up sitting down with them just out of kindness, and also trying to cross-recruit or bring him on to where we were going. And he showed me the numbers, and I was just like, I couldn't believe it, right? And I said, well, I understand that the sales process with satellite is probably a little bit easier than alarms. I feel like alarms is kind of like the Navy SEALs of the door-to-door industry. Guys that are very successful in it, you're not going to have very many of them, right? You're going to have a lot of guys who are just average in that industry because it is a little bit of a tougher sell. But what I started seeing was the vision of being able to build and grow and help guys be able to come in and feel like they had a successful summer. I saw the opportunity to be able to bring guys in the door and retain reps more successfully. And that was my biggest goal. And so I started looking and breaking down the numbers, and I said, I'll try a blitz. But for right now, I'm still stuck with Alder. So I went on a blitz, and I brought a kid who had never sold before. He is not a salesman by any means. If anybody in alarms was trying to recruit him, they would have said, no, this guy wouldn't make it, right? And brought him on, took him out to New Mexico, and he sold 14 in 3 days. And I was sold. I was like, this is it. Like, if I can get a rookie who has no sales experience to have success right out of the gates like that, this is where I can build and grow. And honestly, it turned out to be a blessing for me. Ended up doing for myself. So I came from 175 in alarms and ended up doing 497 accounts last year personally, and then did that same number personal this year. Did over 400 installs. And in my downline, that was the biggest thing, is helping other guys level up. So I did 500 accounts in alarms, and came over here last year and did just 3,200 accounts. And then we were able to level up again this year and do 4,000 accounts. So my biggest thing was the opportunity and being able to help other guys find success early on and help them to feel like they're improving and leveling up in life. And that was the reason why we transitioned over to satellite.
So I have an interesting question that really hits home for me. And I've kind of dealt with this for a long time. So back in 2012, my first year in Vivint, I did 298 accounts. You did 407. So we both have something in common.
Yeah.
What is the commonality there? Those 2 or 3 accounts to just actually finish. It's kind of like, how else does that show up in your life? Why didn't we do 300, or why didn't you do 500? And how else does that show up in people's lives?
Yeah. I think there's 2 parts to that. It's kind of funny because last year my goal was 400 accounts, and I put 400 accounts on the board when we got out there to the summer. And actually, some of my reps started laughing. They're like, "How many years is it going to take you to do that?" Right? Kind of jabbing at me, and I'm a big thing on just proving people wrong and stuff like that. So that kind of put a chip on my shoulder. And so once I actually hit that 400 mark, which was I actually started getting closer to that 400 mark, I saw that I needed to adjust my goal. I was like, I can smash this. And so I ended up changing my goal to 500, but that was in, I think, July is when I ended up changing my goal. And so to be completely honest, for me, when I had gotten to 497 and it was the last day of the process, I honestly wasn't too butthurt about missing out on those three accounts, because that wasn't my original goal. My original goal was 400 and I had smashed that. So I was satisfied. I'd made the amount of money that I wanted to make, but at the same time, the flip side is, yes, I could have gone out and pushed for those extra 3 accounts, right? That last week and leveled up and tried to hit that goal. And that's something that I think is all mental, honestly. A lot of people have to really bite the bullet and go through the pain and the struggle and the suffering to be able to achieve their goals. And sometimes we're just not willing to do those kind of things, that extra mile, right? Even as leaders, sometimes there's times where we just don't want to go out and put in the grind and put in that hard work. We do it because that's our job as leadership, but there are times where you just have those emotions overriding that mental state of, yes, I know I need to go do this, but emotionally you don't want to do it.
Yeah. So let's kind of move gears into mindset.
Let's do it.
Because this job has so much mental stamina, I guess you would call it, or mental exertion would be another way to call it. And if I'm cutting out, or comment on here if I'm cutting out. Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know if everybody else can.
Okay, cool. So comment on there, say something if I'm cutting out. That way I can maybe move and fix internet or whatever. So basically what I'm finding is this job has so much more to do with mindset than it does actual the how to. It's more the why to. So what I'm finding, thanks Matt, thanks Cody. So what I'm finding is there's this fine balance as a leader to influence your people in their minds and influence them in their talent, right? And so what I want to do now is kind of go over how you've helped people with their mindset, and then we're going to get into some of the closes, like I talked about in the pre-post. So let's kind of dive into, you're really passionate about emotional intelligence and helping channel the fire. Kind of go into that. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Definitely. I think a major goal that I've had is helping people to understand the value in mastering your emotions, because people don't really realize we're not taught this in high school or middle school or anything like that. And the issue is that emotional intelligence is simply your emotions control your actions, right? If you're feeling happy or you're feeling angry or you're feeling sad, you're going to act differently, right? I act differently from when I'm happy or when I'm mad. So basically what emotional intelligence is the skill set of being able to recognize the emotions that you're having as well as the emotions that other people are having around you, and then being able to take calculated actions to basically get the best result possible from that interaction, right? So kind of just giving you an example of these of emotional intelligence. Somebody who has low emotional intelligence or low EQ is what it's called. My wife and I just a few weeks ago were in Sacramento or San Francisco for our 1-year anniversary, and we went to Starbucks for breakfast. And there was a gentleman who was obviously in a rush, and he was in front of us, and he went and ordered, and then he was waiting for his order, and we were ordering, and we heard him say something to the gentleman. There's an older gentleman that was working. He was probably about 65 years old, which, to be honest, I hate seeing that nowadays. Like if you go to Walmart or you go into some grocery store, usually you see the greeters are 70 years old, 80 years old. It's not because they want to, but it's because financially they're in a position where they have to do that, which it sends some pain signals for me for sure. But this gentleman was about 65 years old, 70 years old, and he was the one that was actually making the drinks and handing them to the customers. And as soon as the guy received his drink, he said that was probably the slowest service I've ever experienced. Said that to this guy. And I didn't really hear what he said. And the older man actually didn't hear what he said. He said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "That was the slowest customer service experience I've ever had," and walked out the door. And I just finished paying, so I walked over, and the gentleman, I was like, "Man, you're doing a great job. Don't worry about it." And the older gentleman said, "That guy just didn't want me to have a good day," right? And so most people aren't taught that or don't know that your emotions have a ripple effect. They can actually cause other people to have certain feelings rise within themselves, and so you can actually stimulate another person by the emotions that you're having. If you've ever met a person, you can just tell from the beginning they're a nice person. You can say, "I don't know what it is. I've only known them for 2 minutes, but I can just tell this is a good person," right? It's because of the emotional vibe that you're giving off. And so in sales, this is key, because right from the doorstep, a person is going to tell whether they like you or not, right? And so emotional intelligence is key in helping you to maximize your efficiency as a leader, being able to get guys to trust you and be able to follow every word or footstep that you tell them to follow in. If you say, "Hey, you got to do X, Y, Z to find success," if they trust you and if you have a connection with them, they're going to follow what you say, right? Which is going to help them to maximize their potential. Same thing with customers. If I'm knocking on a door, emotional intelligence is about understanding what is this customer feeling in the moment. You can tell by nonverbal cues, things like body language, facial expressions. If you can be able to read a customer within 3 to 5 seconds, you'll know which way you need to manage them, right? If a customer, like an old lady, answers the door and she has her door halfway shut on you and she's just peeking out, you can tell she's a little bit off. So I'm going to spend a few more minutes on the doorstep, breaking her down and trying to build a connection with her to where she feels more comfortable with me before I transition into the home. Versus somebody who opens the door like, "Hey, what's going on, man? How are you doing?" I'm going to transition a lot quicker with that individual because I can tell that I'm able to build a connection a lot quicker. Does that make sense?
So yeah, I've actually had some reps that are kind of slow to pick up on this like social cue like that and kind of be aware of that, the energy that other person's giving off. What recommendation would you give to a rep or manager that's dealing with somebody that's a little bit slower in the sense, you know what I mean? Like they're just like, wait, how are you not picking up the fact that he's like really not following you, but you're pretending like he is following you or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Biggest thing is I think people is the new currency, right? If you understand people, money is going to end up in your bank account. That's just how it goes. And I think the biggest thing especially with newer reps, they have kind of, just like you said, they're a little bit slower to recognize certain signals the customers are giving. And so basically what I've done is emotional intelligence is broken into 4 different categories. There's self-awareness, there's self-regulation and self-management, and there's motivation, self-motivation, and then social skills. Social skills is the part we're talking about where basically you're all about understanding what another individual may be feeling in a circumstance and then changing your actions to be able to get them feeling more comfortable or more connected to you. So for my reps, I go through basically there's a few books that I suggest to read to be able to more actively understand and read people, individuals. And then also just going through, I think it takes practice, man. That's really what it comes down to is emotional intelligence is a skill set that you can build up over time. But the first thing is you have to be aware of it in the first place, right? So explaining to them what emotional intelligence is and also just going through role plays and things like that and saying, hey, pointing it out to them. Hey, did you recognize that customer, they were actually completely shut off? They weren't truly listening to what you were saying from point one. And the rep may not have noticed that, but he would have said, okay, I'm going to pay more attention to that next time around, right? And so just pointing it out is, I think, a big key.
Yeah, I think the problem is a lot of times they don't even know, you know what I mean? And our fear as a leader is we don't want to point out like that they're kind of emotionally not intelligent because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want to be like, hey man, like you're not picking up on the natural social cues that I would naturally think people would pick up on. And it's actually doing them a disservice because it's like, how else is that showing up in their lives? And how else are they showing up really kind of emotionally unaware in a dating situation, in a, you know what I mean? It's really doing them a huge service by just being that blind spot for them, because oftentimes we fail to actually like let them know. And it's actually not, it's doing them a huge disservice by not saying, hey man, like you're really not listening and you're not picking up on the social cues and you really need to pay attention to his tone right here. And can you hear like how he, like his real message behind what he was saying, not like what he was saying. And just paying attention to that as you shadow reps and as you do role plays, I think is massive. Like you're saying,
absolutely.
I think that's a huge principle.
I think so. I mean, as leadership, you have to first study it yourself so that you can point it out to your reps. And I think that's a part of EQ as well, is just having the guts to be able to tell them, like it's painful experience, right? Going through that, but you have to let them know where they're lacking, what they can improve on so they can maximize their potential.
Yeah. And I think another thing that we sometimes aren't conscious of how emotionally intelligent we are. And that's sometimes what makes us so good. And so we don't realize everybody isn't up to speed like we are. And so the more consciously competent we become around our social awareness, the more we can actually go impact our reps and impact our customers. And so if you're watching this, maybe self-reflect or give me a little like smiley face if you think like, oh man, I'm not that competent, or I'm not that consciously competent of like why I'm good. And a lot of it just has to do with studying it and then being able to, that's how you be able to teach it, because oftentimes we fail to know how good we are at like really reading people. And we just naturally think everybody else is that good, but that's probably what makes a 500 account satellite guy or, you know, an awesome manager. So that's huge. So let's kind of shift gears into like closing, because this also kind of leads us into the closing, because, you know, part of this book is formulating that I'm writing this book, ABCs of Closing, right? And I've listed out multiple closes to kind of maximize your arsenal. And I want to jam being a 500 account satellite guy. There's very few people that have done that in this industry. That's something, a phenomenal, achievement in your career. So obviously you know what you're doing from sales standpoint. And I want to kind of dive into maybe the emotional intelligence and that aspect of the close, because a lot of these podcasts I haven't really focused on like, let's close. I've talked more about principles and talk about really the how to. And basically what I want to do is kind of tie in some of the closes that you use in satellite and understand kind of like what are some of your go-tos and what are some of the things that you want us to pick up on. And you're like, hey, notice how I said it like this, and notice how I changed my tone here. And I want to almost like role play and kind of dive into it a little bit. But yeah, kind of go through what are some of your favorite closes that you use in satellite that you've seen to be most effective?
Yeah, I would say number one, first and foremost for any industry is you got to be assumptive, right? So assuming the sell is something that I'm getting from. What was that?
No, A is for assumptive close. So
there we go. Yeah, A for assumptive close. And that's really I think where it all starts, like from the doorstep, actually before you even knock the door, when you wake up in the morning and you start your rituals, you have to have told yourself, like, this is how many sales I'm going to get today. And you're assuming that that's going to be the outcome, right? So assumptive closes, you're closing yourself from the beginning of when you wake up in the morning, right? And but on the doorstep, right from when I'm knocking the door and explaining things to the customer, like you have to be assuming the sell and getting in the process of getting them to say yes right from the beginning, right? But in the end, my biggest thing is I think building urgency is a big mix between the assumptive time frame close, which for me, I like to use leverage of other customers, other people in the area that I'm taking care of. And the way I do that is on Sales Rabbit, we're able to show all the customers within, a 3-mile radius of who's getting set up or who's already installed. And so what I'll do is I'll show them the customer order form, which states that there's a $199 install fee. And I explain, and I'll just go through this. Let's just role play it as if you're a customer. I'll say, hey, Sam, as you obviously know, we want to be as cost efficient as possible when we go ahead and upgrade your technology like we explained. So what we like to do is group you together with all the other customers in the area. We actually have 17 customers getting taken care of between today and tomorrow. And if you're willing to group with them, which you may know some of these names, do any of these names look familiar? And I'll show my iPad and go through the names of the customers that are around. Do any of these names look familiar to you?
Yeah, I know Tommy and Susie.
Okay, perfect. Great. So yeah, good deal. So yeah, they're actually getting installed this evening. The nice thing is if you're willing to group together with these other customers, then we're going to also put you in a better situation. Normally we charge $199 for the technician's time, the equipment cost, and the setup of the satellite. And so that would be due today for the equipment cost and the technician cost as well. But if you guys are willing to group together with the other 17 customers in this area, then what we're willing to do is actually cut that down by $150. So it's just a one-time fee of $50. So would you guys have more availability tonight or tomorrow morning to get installed? What works better for you?
So the option close. Yeah.
So it's kind of a combo. Yep.
So what's
a combo?
So anybody that was watching that, or listening to this is the whole point of the book. It's you use A, which is assumption, plus B, which is bandwagon, plus T, which is time frame close, equals, or plus O, which is option close, equals close. So exactly. Part of the worksheet, I'm working out a workbook that'll actually be, okay, let's create the best formulas. What's like the jab, uppercut, left hook? You know what I mean? And
there you go.
And what you did there was assumption, bandwagon, time frame, option. And it was close. And so anybody that's watching this needed to pick up on, he used like 4 or 5 closes throughout when that was within a minute, which is wild. So then they say, okay, let's go to the hard customer. Ready? So honestly, like I just, I want to stew it over and talk to the wife, and we don't know if we're really ready to switch right now.
Yeah, I completely understand that, Sam. I'm sure you have a good reason for saying that, but don't you agree that this obviously is a good opportunity for you guys to be able to save money and cut down on your bill? So why don't you be honest as possible with me? It's not going to hurt my feelings. What's holding you guys back?
Honestly, we just don't like change. It's kind of moving fast. We usually sleep on all of our decisions.
Absolutely. And that's the best part about it, is I'm not making you guys do this right this minute. So what I do, my job's very simple. I'm just in charge of scheduling the technician time, okay? And what you guys have time to do is then talk about it, which everybody I've helped in this area have loved the opportunity to be able to cut down on their price and upgrade their technology. So what we're going to do is group you together with the other customers in the area, okay, which allows you guys to not have to pay that hefty $199 installation fee, which I'm sure you would agree that's a benefit, right? Not having to pay that $200 fee. Right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to go ahead and do is just group you with the other 17 people, like I mentioned, and go ahead and get you taken care of. Would 4 to 8 work better for you guys, or 8 to 12 in the morning?
Probably 8 to 12.
8 to 12. Okay, perfect.
So walk us through kind of what you did, because how many people like this right now, if you're watching live, there's a bunch of people on, there's like 16 people on currently, but like this right now, if you hate, or no, give me a frowny face. If you hate getting I want to think about it, you're like, fetch, just tell me no. But now walk us through kind of what you did in that situation.
So for me, to be honest, my first thing is I'm not going to take whatever their first objection is not going to be a true issue. I'm going to treat it as a smoke screen, okay? And so whatever they're throwing out, it doesn't matter if they want to think about it or if they have to call a family member first, or if they don't have bills coming in so they can't pay it right now, the setup fee, whatever it may be, whatever they're throwing out, I'm going to repeat what they say. Okay, I understand. You want to think about it. I'm sure you have a good reason for saying that. And I want to find out if there's anything else that's holding them back, right? And so at the same time, you got to ask, just be honest with me, what's holding me back, right? To try and get out the true concerns. But for me, the biggest thing is acknowledging that they have an issue and moving forward. For the first 2 times, I'm not really diving into their concern because I'm treating it's not too big of a deal. You want to do this, you want to have emotional intelligence when you do this, right? You don't want to completely blow off what they say because that's going to lose the sale for you. You want them to feel like you actually care about what they said and connect with them. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of push it aside, and you got to do it with tact. And then I'll go right back into the close as if nothing happened. And you'll find out that I would say probably 50, I've probably gained an extra 50 sales from just blowing past that first objection, and I throw it back on them, and it just for some reason clicks, and they'll decide to move forward on that second or third try. There are times obviously you have to have.
No, but it's so freaking true. So many people get so held up on, they objected me, I'm never going to close. It's like, I would, like you said, 50, maybe, probably like say 50 to 80%. So depending on your customer, that is just them naturally regurgitating their common response that they normally would tell any sales thing, and they don't even believe what they're saying. They're just saying it because that's
exactly
what they say, and you just kind of like,
it's a common prescription.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What other closes do you like in the satellite space? And then we kind of got to wrap up. So, what are some other really cool closes that you've used that you're like, man, this one's money? And then we'll kind of apply it. Maybe we'll combo punch and stuff like that.
Yeah. Give me a customer situation.
Okay. Let's do this one. Not interested. So honestly, man, we're just not interested. And so one of the closes, the end close is the not interested close, because you can kind of leverage not interested as a close a lot of times. And this could be on the door or this could be in the home, I believe. So customer says, I'm not interested. How do you flip that on them and close them?
Again, man, I try to be as upfront and honest with customers as possible. So I'm going to just say, hey, Sam, when you say you're not interested, usually it's because a customer has some sort of concern that I haven't resolved. So why don't you just shoot me straight and tell me what's holding you back? Because I'm sure you would agree, saving money is a benefit. So you are interested in that. So tell me what's holding you guys back from taking this opportunity.
Boom. And a lot of times people aren't ready for you to be just so blunt and honest. And they're expecting you to kind of shrivel up like most reps actually do. Most sales reps kind of just go, well, I mean, why aren't you interested? Whatever, blah, blah. And they kind of get defensive. But it's like you're kind of taking it as like, I get it. What's holding you back? I'm here. We're going to make this thing happen, and I'm committed to that. Yeah. So let's just say, honestly, man, it's just I had a friend that had a bad experience with XYZ, and that just makes me kind of nervous, and I just would rather do some research.
Oh, absolutely. That completely makes sense. So really your concern is just that you have a family member or a friend who had this a bad experience with the product. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, understandable. And that's kind of funny because do you know Nancy, who's about 3 houses down from you?
Bandwagon. Yeah, no, I know her kind of. I just hi bye kind of thing.
Okay, great. Well, see, she actually had the same feelings. She had a friend who had a bad experience as well. But what she found was her cousin just got the services about 3 months ago, and those issues have been fixed. AT&T acquired DirecTV for a substantial amount of money, and they upgraded the technology and the way it runs. So you're not going to have any issues with that. You're going to love the service as well as the price.
Feel, felt, found, close. Look. So, you know what I mean? It's crazy how we can combo and how intertwined a lot of these messages are. And there's so many different ways we can skin it. And, you know, a lot of reps get held up on, oh, what if I don't say it right? Or what if I don't do this? It's because, one, you only have one or two in your arsenal, right? Yeah. And it's like so many times. And that's why this book is going to be so awesome, is because it's like literally, I think there's like 40 closes and there's 26 like alphabetically, but then I put bonus closes in there. But like just in your first door approach to your, you know, that one to the other one, you comboed 4 or 5 different closes kind of back to back to back, right? And so like what's crazy is so many reps, they just kind of talk and they just kind of go through this presentation and then close. And they think that by just talking about all these features and they talk about all these cool things, the customer just naturally wants to buy. But it's like we need to be funneling the sale into a yes, right? And it's just slowly getting small yeses to get the big yes, right? So
exactly. That's what it comes down to.
So to kind of wrap things up, just because we're short on time, one last question. And this one's kind of, it doesn't have to be anything with closing. It's more just in your experience running massive teams. I mean, this year you're on track to go do 6,000 accounts. It's just which is awesome. Your 3rd year in satellite. That's amazing. So anybody that's watching this, like he knows what he's talking about. So what advice would you give to the door-to-door space? Just in all your experience, if you had to give any advice, what would it be?
Man, there's so many good principles to hit on, man. But I would honestly say just developing a set of key rituals that you take part in every single day to get yourself in a what Tony Robbins calls peak state, right? Because as I mentioned, man, people is the new currency. If you are able to understand people, read people, and connect is the biggest thing. If you're able to connect with another human being, magic is going to take place, right? So for me, what I've found great success in is just having a set outline of rituals that I go through every single morning to get me in that peak state so that I'm ready for whatever I'm going to go through. So I think I kind of mentioned this to you, but what I try to do is get as many wins as possible before I head out on the doors. So what I'll do is, for example, when I set an alarm the night before, doesn't matter what time I say I'm going to get up, if it's 5:30 or if it's 11 a.m., as long as when that alarm goes up, I'm up, right? There's no hitting the snooze button, because if you do, you've lost. But if you jump up as soon as that alarm goes off, then you actually say that's the first win on the day. Then you make your bed. That's win number 2. Then you go and read books, or you go to the gym, whatever it is. You start chalking up those wins, as many as possible before you hit the doors, and that's going to help you to get to that next level. On top of that, things like, for me, I do something called I am rituals. Something I stole from Grant Cardone, where I'm writing down my goals every single day. I write it down in the morning and I write it down at night. And I actually have, just to kind of show you, I have 4 of these books that are just, you can kind of see that, but I can't see where my screen is. But I have 4 of these books where I've written down my goals, and some of them are short term, some of them are long term. But I'll write down, last year I wrote down over 700 times my goals. And what's the difference between the guys who are average and the people who are top performers is they have a clear vision of what they're wanting to accomplish. And that's been the biggest thing for me, is being able to year after year level up and set new records, set new goals for myself. It's all attributed to the rituals in the morning, which I won't break down all of those because there's a lot of them. But my 2 biggest ones is making sure that you're chalking up your wins. You're telling yourself, good job. You're doing, whatever you're doing well, you need to point that out to yourself. And then writing down your goals, both morning and night. For me, some people may think it's overkill, but when you're off of some few small principles that you've just copycatted from multimillionaires, I think it's a good thing to try out. At least try it out and see if there's any difference in your actual feelings throughout the day, which again, your whole feelings and the aura that you put off to other people is what's going to get you that step further. In business, in relationships, being able to be in this peak state and make sure that you're feeling good, that other people are feeling good because of you being around them, I think that's definitely the key.
Yeah, no, and on that note, like, I'm so passionate about what you said about writing things down and productivity and stuff like that. I actually just built a custom productivity planner for DDD. It's called the DDD Planner, and I'm pretty much 90% done with it. And I believe so much in it that I think a lot of people are so unorganized with their goals, they don't even know what their goals are. You know what I mean? And just like every day reminding yourself, I am this, I'm doing this, I'm manifesting this, like massive, massive impact in your life. And I've seen that too. So dude, that's awesome. Like, honestly, I've loved this podcast. For anybody that's watching this, share this right now. Everybody needs to hear exactly what Shoney just shared with us. Thank you so much for your time. Excited to kind of meet you in person and door-to-door con.
Sure.
It was super cool to see what kind of leader you were. I mean, you were one of the first people to buy tickets. I mean, that was like one thing that just like you went up in my book was just like, wow, like this guy's committed to the success of his team, the success of his organization. That's awesome. So excited to meet you in person, my man. So
yeah,
thank
you for having me on, man. I'm excited to see you as well.